This lecture is dedicated to TOGAF standard, its history, basic principles, and key definitions. The TOGAF standard is a framework for enterprise architecture. It may be used by any organization to develop an enterprise architecture. The original development of TOGAF version 1 in 1995 was based on the Technical Architecture Framework for Information Management, or TAFIM. TAFIM was initially developed by US Department of Defense. There are 4 architecture domains of enterprise architecture in TOGAF standard. They include the business architecture, which defines the business strategy, governance, organization, and key business processes. Next is the data architecture, which describes the structure of an organization's logical and physical data assets. It also includes description of data management resources. Another domain is the application architecture. The application architecture provides a blueprint for the individual applications to be deployed. It also describes interactions and relationships of these applications. The 4th domain is the technology architecture. The technology architecture describes the logical software and hardware capabilities. These capabilities support the deployment of business, data, and application services. The following objects might refer to the technology architecture: IT infrastructure, middleware, networks, communications, processing, standards, etc. Besides the described domains, TOGAF standard includes the TOGAF Architecture Development Method, ADM. It aims to provide a tested and repeatable process for developing architectures. This is a method to evolve current architecture and implement new solutions with complex approach. The ADM includes establishing an architecture framework, developing architecture content, transitioning and governing the realization of architecture. The latest version of TOGAF provides the ADM with 9 phases, which are preliminary phase, architecture vision, business architecture, information systems architectures, technology architecture, opportunities and solutions, migration planning, implementation governance, architecture change management. The core of this method, which refers to all phases, is requirements management. It examines the process of managing architecture requirements throughout the ADM through the whole development cycle. In this course, you will have the lecture dedicated to ADM and its detailed description. Next important notion of TOGAF is architecture content framework. It is established to describe the type of architectural work product within the context for use. For this, we have 3 categories: a deliverable, an artifact, and building block. A deliverable is a work product that is contractually specified and formally reviewed, agreed, and signed off by the stakeholders. Deliverables might be represented by the output of project. An artifact is an architectural work product that describes an aspect of the architecture. Artifacts are generally classified as catalogs, matrices, and diagrams. They might be represented by requirements catalog, business interaction matrix, a use case diagram, and others. The last category is a building block. A building block represents a component of enterprise capability that can be combined with other building blocks to deliver architectures and solutions. Building blocks can be defined at various levels of detail. The digitalization level depends on what stage of architecture development has been reached. Building blocks can relate to architectures or solutions. Architecture building blocks typically describe required capability and shape the specification of solution building blocks. In turn, solution building blocks represent components that will be used to implement the required capability. Another important concept of TOGAF is enterprise continuum. It explains how generic solutions can be leveraged and specialized in order to support the requirements of an individual organization. To support enterprise continuum, the concept of an architecture repository is used. It stores different classes of architectural output and different levels of abstraction created by the ADM. By means of the enterprise continuum and architecture repository, architects are encouraged to leverage all the relevant architecture resources and assets in developing an organization-specific architecture. The enterprise continuum provides a valuable context for understanding architectural models. It shows building blocks and other relationships to each other and the constraints and requirements on the cycle of architecture development. Some elements of enterprise continuum are the reference library, which provides guidelines, templates, patterns, and other forms of reference material to create new architectures for the enterprise. The governance log, which provides a record of governance activity across the enterprise and others. Normally, enterprise architecture frameworks focus on the specific set of deliverables, while it is important that EA framework would include two key elements: a definition of deliverables and a description of the method by which this should be done. TOGAF standard is a generic framework which can be used for a variety of environments. This makes TOGAF potentially applicable for a combination with other standards. TOGAF can be potentially integrated with ITIL, CMMI, COBIT, Prince2, PMBOK, and MSP. But it has to save its key function, provide a tailored method that is integrated into the processes and organization structures of the enterprise.